Joining us now is Right on Crime Executive Director and former federal prosecutor and apparently birthday boy too, Brett Tolman. First of all, happy birthday, Brett. I actually,
Thank you, Trey.
I actually think, you're welcome. I actually think, and I know you do too, I think our system can be improved. I mean, you and I are former prosecutors who think the system can be improved, but this guy wants to burn it down. He makes us seem like Dirty Harry. How did he get elected?
There's no question you can improve the criminal justice system without compromising public safety. It's happening all over the country in conservative cities and states, Utah, Texas, Georgia. They're working on their criminal justice system to bring down some of the over-incarceration. But here, Mr. Boudin sold them a bill of goods, Trey, and I think you highlighted it perfectly. This is someone who cried racism, 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 and had all the voters believing that he would fix the criminal justice system. But the one thing he didn't tell them is that he was going to allow crime to run rampant, and that means more victims.
All right, Brett, New York has an allegedly progressive prosecutor. I mean, I hate that phrase, but let's just go with it. Actually, they're just run-of-the-mill criminal defense attorneys, but progressive prosecutor in New York, Los Angeles, St. Louis. I mean, is this trend growing or is it about to die out?
Well, I think one of the best things that happened was the recall of Mr. Boudin. It sends a clear message that people are fine with you trying to fix or improve the criminal justice system, but what they can't stand is allowing criminals to just run free, to not prosecute, deciding which statutes and which crimes you're not going to prosecute. You and I both know we were there. We were sworn to protect citizens and communities and to enforce the law. We weren't there to pick and choose who we would prosecute and who we wouldn't.
You know, Brett, you put your finger on such an important point. I mean, we hear this phrase, a threat to democracy. We hear it a lot in our political debate right now. I can't think of anything that's more of a threat to democracy than one elected official deciding which laws he or she is going to enforce or not enforce. I mean, I'm sure you prosecuted cases that had you been a legislature, you would not have passed that law or would not have attached that punishment to the law.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I had a case in which I had to beg the Department of Justice to allow me to offer 35 years as the punishment. He was young. He didn't deserve longer than that, but he was facing 125 years under the federal guidelines. So I had to work hard to do that. We know that there's imperfection in the justice system, but you can't sacrifice on the altar of the criminal justice system your political leanings and wokeism and the ability to try to send a message that you're going to do things differently when really what you're doing is just not going to prosecute and protect your citizens from crime.
All right, we need a justice system that is both respected and worthy of respect. So if you were in charge, not the criminal defense attorneys like Chesa Boudin, but if you were in charge of advocating for reforms to our justice system, where would you start?
Well, one thing that a DA can do is start a conviction integrity unit, have the ability to review actual claims of innocence. And then if you want to do bail reform, for example, Trey, have a system that is always going to be mindful of the public safety. So if you want to allow those that can't afford bail to get out, fine, but don't also get rid of the judge's abilities to analyze whether or not an individual is at risk of being a danger to the community. And so there's simple ways to do it. Don't do it based on emotion, but do it based on data and research and best practices, which are happening across this country. The states are proving in many cities that you can reform this justice system without creating more victims of crime.
All right, you were a federal prosecutor. What can federal prosecutors do about violent crime? Keeping in mind that 90% of the crime, 95% of the crime is state and local, but there is a role for federal prosecutors and for Merrick Garland's office to play, correct?
Absolutely. The FBI after 9/11 went down the road of investigating terrorism, and we really never got them back in investigating and partnering with our state violent crime task forces. I'd love to see them back in the trenches working on violent crime. I think you'd see more cases brought through the U.S. Attorney's Office. violent crime with the use of a firearm is punishable for long sentences in the federal system. I'd like to see the U.S. Attorney's offices across the country engage more and partner more with your state violent crime task forces.
Well said, Brett Tolman. Thank you for your service as a federal prosecutor, and I hope you get a razor blade for your birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Thanks, Trey.